Grimm Show presents Scratch Track,
the podcast where we debate which track to scratch off some of the most known and unknown albums of all time.
We live in an era of singles.
This is an album.
People no longer listen to an album for the work it truly is.
It kind of defines a band.
It's just not something that people relate to nowadays.
We've all gotten the dreaded.
It started out as a game.
Which track on the album would you scratch out if you had to? Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Scratch a Track podcast presented by The Dude and Grimm Show. I am The Dude.
And I am Grimm, and we are here today to talk about the album With a Teetha by 9 Inch Nails. And we have ourselves a very special guest, Mr. Forrest Karbowski. And
Howdy.
Forrest introduced the two of us to the album, and you may have enjoyed the music bed as well, and we'll have a link to that, and that's Forrest's music under the name Karbowski that can be found on SoundCloud. So with that, we'll go into how we discovered this album via this wonderful human being.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
what happened
amazing-
since.
Our amazing roommate. So
And
thank
get
you for
out our
joining us.
screwdrivers at some point, too.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm trying
Or
to
get
think
out our
what-
teeth. I think I'm taking this one right to the canine.
Yeah, I got a gold tooth.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. Yeah. I
I
was
got
gonna
my
say,
gold tooth.
what's your weapon of choice? But yeah. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Good friend, former roommate, former
Yeah.
film major, right?
Been a few years.
Yeah, just a couple, but who's counting, right? So.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
lost count.
Definitely. All right. So, Forrest, you are the one who introduced us to this album. I'm sure
Yeah.
you introduced Grimm first, and I'm always, a step behind you guys. So how did you know this album was coming out? And because it was released May 3rd, 2005, was this something you were anticipating
right.
or what? Do you remember your experience with it?
Yeah, I mean, I was a fan of 9 Inch Nails from, when I was younger, from when I was too young, honestly. Like, I remember.
You should not have been listening.
No, probably not. But this was the first 9 Inch Nails album that I actually bought, like, day one. Like, everything else I kind of discovered after the fact.
Sweet.
And this one, it came out, and I was there. I was ready for it. I was excited. And yeah, I'm surprised that Grimm got introduced to it first through me because your room was right across the hall, and I feel like I was probably blasting this nonstop when it came out.
Yeah, but I wasn't into 9 Inch Nails back then. This is the album that actually really got me into them. Like I'd heard some stuff,
too.
I'd seen the videos, but it just I had the perception in my head was not what it came to be for me.
I think
Yeah.
I may have had a dub tape of like the Downward Spiral from somebody that I would listen to in my Walkman sometimes, but like I didn't follow them like I did after this,
Yeah.
because
Well,
this
my-
one just really hit home.
My first exposure to 9 Inch Nails, I mean, I'd heard like Head Like a Hole on the radio and maybe Closer, but obviously the censored version, But I remember I went to the public library and they had like a whole rack of CDs, and I was like, I want to check out 9 Inch Nails, and they had the March of the Pigs EP or single, I guess, and then Further Down the Spiral. So
Is that
was
the
like,
remixes one?
yeah, and
Probably.
so like that was my first introduction to the band, which was kind of like a backwards way of doing it, but I mean, it turned out all right.
Yeah, I think my main intro was actually probably when I got those director's DVDs because Mark Romanek he did the closer video, and I think he also did the Perfect Drug, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, I think you're right about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so I mean, I had seen that and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I'm sure you were playing it. You probably got Grimm into it, but Grimm and I, we were probably at that time sharing our little studio in the basement
all the time.
And I think I either found the CD down there or something, and I was just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna like put it in. And I mean, we'll get into the tracks, but the first track was not what I expected to hear. So,
Dude, to me, I don't know how you can't get hooked in once you get that beat going.
Yeah. So, but so I mean this is like their fourth album. So they had a studio album. So Downward Spiral, Broken was their second, right? The Fragile.
They got
this one.
Pretty Hate Machine was their first one.
Oh yeah, Pretty Hate Machine. So what was Broken? Like an EP or something?
It's an EP, yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, whatever. Yeah.
I mean, I would count it as an album, but if you want to be technical, it's an EP.
Well, opinion is pretty short. I mean, just when it gets to the good part, it cuts.
I know.
Exactly. Right. Well, dude, it's funny, man, because that's how. So we'll talk about these DVDs a little bit, but I got the live DVDs of what is the first one is, and all you could have been, because the actual concert when they come out on stage starts with Pinion or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it goes right into Terrible Lie. It's a pretty badass transition. So, it's pretty cool.
I would say that, so this is how this whole business started, at least for the three of us. Like Forrest was definitely the early adopter. But I would think it's worth mentioning that it culminated for us all being at the same show that you can, I think, read about in like the Wikipedia article or ever in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And we talked about it in the Hurt one where somebody threw the lighter at him and he threw down the synth, and that was the end of the concert. And that was that.
There was no encore.
Such a shame. No.
Yeah. Well, dude, I even have a Nine Inch Nails Trent Reznor biography, and that incident made it into the biography. So whoever threw the lighter, I mean, that's kind of your claim to fame, and I'm sure you're not doing anything else.
I guess we know what your scratch track was on Downward Spiral. I mean, that's pretty obvious.
I'd say
it's
so.
like you were playing before the game even started.
Yeah. But I do remember that show because I think I had mostly listened to this album and then some of the Fragile, and I wasn't quite as familiar with Downward Spiral. But they started the show with Mr. Self-Destruct. That was a pretty badass way to start the show. From what I'm pretty sure they did. Yeah. But yeah, it was a good show, good tour. I mean, it would have been nice to have seen the encore. But
and since then, man, I think I've seen them 2 or 3 other times.
I don't even want to get started.
I've seen a bunch, man.
No, I've missed every single Nine Inch Nails show I've bought tickets for.
Oh, dude, you would appreciate this.
I have a curse.
There
man.
there was one where he had like this screen, and I don't know how they had it programmed, but like,
oh, dude, it was amazing.
And it had the 16 squares, dude, like a sequence, right? And he would go up like it was Wheel of Fortune and just like hit ones on the screen, and it would light up. And he just like built the beat right there. It was really cool. Yeah. Really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I don't know what the programming was behind that. I doubt it went directly to an original 909, but whatever it did, it was pretty sweet.
So there is, I saw it a long time ago. I haven't seen it pop up even when I search Nine Inch Nails and stuff, but there's a really cool kind of behind the scenes YouTube video and stuff about that production company who put that together for him. I want to say they're like based in Canada. I could be wrong. But dude, it is like an intense setup. Like
I'm sure.
All the computers and shit that they have going. And so I believe they did that. They did that at their Lollapalooza tour. So that's the year in Chicago. We saw Radiohead, Nine Inch Nails, and Rage all headlined Lollapalooza that year. And then Grim, you and I saw him. I think it might have been the year
down
after
by the
that,
waterfront somewhere
in Chicago. Yeah. But that was like, the total stripped down show. It was just like them playing with lights and stuff. Because I think as cool as that was, I think he was just like, man, I just want to go out and play. He's like, having all this production stuff. Oh, and that was a small venue. That was a pretty small venue for that. So
yeah.
But so should we talk about this specific album a little bit?
Yeah.
Halo 19.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. Do you know what the designation for all this is? Is this like Mozart Symphony number 40?
I mean, I think it was just like a smart bit of branding, like a bit of like, this is a collector's item sort of thing. Like every release that he puts out has that Halo branding, right? So even stuff like I was talking about, like March of the Pigs and Further Down the Spiral, those are their own halos. And if you're like super deep into collecting this stuff, you can get all the different editions and whatnot.
Dude,
so,
this one, this DVD right here, Halo 22.
There you go. Yeah.
Let's see what this one is. I don't know what it'll say. Halo 17 is the right beside you.
There you go.
No, and all that could have been. So yeah.
Wow.
So
yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like Trent is always, and I don't know how much of it in the early days was like his record company, but now he's like fully in charge of it all. Just great at marketing this stuff. Like
dude. It has a very specific feel, look. It's been different but consistent throughout the years.
I have a feeling that after Trent sees this, he's going to make this Halo 36. Don't you think? He'd be like, man,
420.
Whatever, dude. Yeah. Trent, hey, dude, we are on board. All right. We are on board, man.
Yeah.
And if you do that, we will do every one of your previous Halos. I promise. Like, we will scratch the shit out of it. So, so this is an interesting album for him because if you see the, in Forrest, I think you have the live DVD of and all that could have been.
Yeah. I don't have it prepared with me.
You can tell he's in a very interesting place in life on that tour. He is, they're all like full makeup, grungy, dirty, like just destroying all their equipment, everything. I mean, it's pretty intense. And I think from what I read, what I remember from the book, like he was heavy into drugs, heavy into drinking on that tour. I think I think they called it the Fragility Tour. And I think Marilyn Manson may have opened for him, or it would have been a joint tour at some point. I want to say, super fans don't get on my ass. We've had issues with that in the past. So, I know there has been times where they have toured together, but it may not been.
Wasn't there some controversy between the two of those guys?
Yeah. Forrest, do you have some insight into that, Forrest? Or I have a little bit, but
I've heard some varying reports. I mean, I think there was some drama. Obviously, Trent produced a couple of Marilyn Manson's albums. I think his debut, as well as maybe. I'm not a huge Marilyn Manson fan, so I couldn't tell you what the second was. It Follow the Lead? No, that's Korn. I don't know what I'm talking about here, but yeah, they definitely had a falling out, but then they kind of mended their. I think they sort of buried it and are friends again.
Okay,
but, friendly.
Well, as you were saying, dude, drinking, a lot of drug use, and it was noted that a lot of this album had dealt with the coming out of that. Wrestling with those demons. And it kind of makes sense. And I've always wondered that about some of his songs, because I'm like, either this is all a metaphor for personal struggles, or like he just really doesn't like a lot of people. You know what I mean?
I think there's a bit of both. I mean, we can go into some of the themes of the album, but addiction is definitely one of them. Recovery, because at this point he was in recovery. He had recovered from, as much as he can from a disease like addiction. And, a lot of songs are about redefining your self-perception and your perception of the world around you, and betrayal and trust, which is like a constant theme. You go back to Terrible Lie on his first album. That's, about feeling like lied to by God and this idea of God. Right. And so like, I think it's safe to say Trent's got an axe to grind with the world, a couple axes maybe,
Yeah, sure.
Possible.
No, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, I mean, the research that I've done and the interviews he's given, a lot of it was about his addiction, drugs, and becoming sober. That in the progression of that, and also kind of losing his identity, and that's something a lot of artists have talked about. Is they have their stage persona, and then they have their off the stage, and the line begins to blur, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
dude.
and it's like,
well played.
And that's something, you know, we talked about Grimm a little bit, I think, in our David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust.
Oh, the persona that he was in him.
And he really struggled. And then you add drinking and drugs into that, and it just magnifies and compounds everything. And artists really, really struggle with that because they're not, I mean, I know we all think, oh, dude, it would be awesome. All I'd have to do is show up, play my songs, and then go to the next city. Dude, that's not normal life, and there are just a lot of stresses and things that go along with that. So, and you know, I think he was on tour for a while when he was doing the Fragile. He was on tour for a while, but
it was a double album.
It was a double album. It definitely was. And dude, the DVD is a double DVD. So I mean, you know, but that's also
there
before
was
Blu-ray.
some stuff to fill there.
Yeah.
But, you know, one thing that they talked about, that we all read about, and anyone who listened to the two of them would see, is I felt that the Fragile was much more of this big thing that kind of meandered into different spaces. And there was a lot of parts where there wasn't vocals and there was, I wouldn't by no means call it dead space, but it was just like sonic paintings kind of, if you will. But I felt this album was much more like song based.
Yeah. And that's what he wanted.
Not that there wasn't
do.
some instrumental parts, but it's much more song oriented.
Yeah. There's no like The Great Below or you know, anything like that. It's just,
I mean, it's kind of poppy when you get down to it. You know,
for them. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
It kind of feels more like Pretty Hate Machine in that respect than you know, the Fragiles are.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And what's interesting to me is that this started life as a concept album. He was going to call it Bleed Through. I don't know if you guys read about this.
Did read about it.
And you can hear some of those motifs in the lyrics. You know, there's a couple of songs where he talks about, you know, bleed through and things like that. But you know, I think he decided to go in a different direction with it, less conceptual. He didn't want to be constrained by, you know,
having to fit in this.
Yeah, it was more, I think he described it as like a collection of songs that like kind of live in the same space, but they're not connected that way.
No, and I think that's a really, really good way to put it. And I did read that as well. And one thing I liked is that although he didn't produce it, I love that he cites maybe my favorite producer in music in here, that like Rick Rubin was a constant source of inspiration throughout the planning and writing of the album. Dude, of course he would be. The guy is like a Zen master.
Dude, who has?
I mean, you know,
dude, I'm inspired by him. I don't even make fucking music,
dude.
Well, and this album came out right after that Johnny Cash Hurt cover, which Rick Rubin produced, correct?
Yeah, I think he was in the studio. I mean, they were friends. I think, I mean, because he was in the studio for a while. This came out in 2005, but I mean, he started. I want to say, what was it, like 2001, or at least starting to write songs and do stuff, because it also talks. I read that kind of like 9/11 actually kind of influenced his thoughts and everything about this album as well. So he was already in the process of you know, working on the album in 2001. And you know, as you know, he doesn't put out albums like quickly. I mean, there was a pretty big gap between Downward Spiral and The Fragile,
I feel like he
and then
didn't
this one
so
too.
much then, but in the late, I think after that it was more frequently.
Yeah, now
there have been times he's taken he took a brief hiatus. I think after Hesitation Marks, but yeah, I mean, at the time, I remember one of the things that I loved about this album was I kind of thought Nine Inch Nails might be done. You know, like
sure.
He felt like he'd dropped off the radar, at least from my teenage perspective at the time. You know, like I was like, where's Trent? You know, and then he comes out with this album.
With a vengeance. Came back with a vengeance.
Yeah, and he had something new to say. You know, not just topically, but musically. It has a different sound to it, which we'll get into when we talk about the tracks, I think. But
yeah. Well, he originally started recording it down in New Orleans, and that's where he was kind of home based, and that's where he recorded The Fragile. And I mean, he has his whole Nothing Studios and stuff, and that's where he did a lot of the production. And becoming sober, I think he was down there and he started, and I think he just wanted to really get away. And that's why, he went to LA, and I think he just needed to change the scenery. I mean, I can see that, dude, because he spent so long working on The Fragile. And if you're in just a bad place mentally and you're dependent on substances, you probably want to, and you've made this transition. You probably want to get away from just kind of where you've had all those bad experiences. Or
well, yeah, how could you not associate that place with, right?
Yeah.
Plus, I think from having hung out there a few times myself, I think New Orleans is probably a tough place to get sober. Not that LA is any better, but
At least there's I think that the fact that there's no open carry laws and
exactly.
I mean, it's just crack one and walk to the grocery store.
Yeah.
To get more smokes.
I had heard, and I know you guys know this, but maybe I forgot, or I just wasn't. I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't a huge fan at the time. But Dave Grohl played drums. Dude,
yeah, and you can hear it.
Oh yeah.
Dude, it's badass, right?
Yeah.
It's really cool. And from what I heard, I don't know if it was an interview. Yeah, it was an interview with Trent. I think he said, so his other drummer that I think he worked with us on this album was Jerome Dillon. And I don't know if it was him specifically, he kind of said this to you, or he was just mentally thinking it when he was thinking about these songs. He's like, I wanted to sound like this. I wanted to sound like Dave Grohl drums. And then I think he just, a light bulb went off, and he was just like, well, why don't I just go get Dave Grohl? I mean, and because they hadn't really, and he said in the interview that, they'd played a few festivals together. I think they did Big Day Out in Australia, but he didn't really know Dave Grohl. But dude, I think, Grim, I think I said this to you the other day. Dude, isn't that awesome when you're just you can just reach out to somebody like that? Be like, hey, do you want to come play on my album? Dude, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's living the dream.
Yeah. You just got a line to
and those guys, they can do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. This is also the first, I believe the first album where he worked with modular synthesizers, which is my shit. Yeah. This is the first album he worked with Alessandro Cortini, who's kind of the synth member. He plays other instruments as well, but within their live set, he does a lot of the synth stuff.
And what about Atticus Ross?
This was the first album he worked with Atticus Ross as well. So kind of a lot of the bedrock of modern Nine Inch Nails started here with this album.
Oh, that's cool. It makes sense, but I didn't realize that about the modular stuff. I figured he was one of those guys who had
that's
modulars.
According to what I read, I mean, he always had the Moog. I think it's the Voyager 1, Graham.
He's actually in the documentary. He talks about it, of what an important piece that is, because it allows for one to create sounds without the constant constraints of, it's more for musicians, than synth enthusiasts, because it's immediately playable.
Right.
And it's got the keyboard interface, which is kind of.
So one thing, when I was reading about the release of this, now, Forrest, I imagine you bought this on CD. Right? Yeah.
I have the vinyl now.
Okay.
But
nice.
I think it was one of the first I think it was one of the first CDs that came out where the packaging, though, it wasn't all enclosed in plastic. It had it was kind of.
It had the cardboard, jewel cardboard case. Is that what that was called?
Yeah.
Oh.
It wasn't just those regular, classic plastic ones. And that's kind of cool.
The art was great. The packaging was great. That's one of the things I love about this band is just all the thought that goes into every little piece of it, Yeah. But interesting note about the vinyl, and we may want to talk about that just because this is Scratch a Track. There's an extra track on the vinyl, a song called Home, which was originally, it was just one of the songs. There's a handful of songs that Trent worked on for this album but didn't make it, and I think we should I'm assuming what we're going to do here, I don't want to walk into your house and tell you where to park your car, But I'm assuming we're gonna
remember whose podcast this is. Okay? I know you're a special guest and all, but let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I'm just assuming we're gonna go with the version of the album that we all were exposed to back then.
CD version.
Yeah. I would actually like to hear, now that you mentioned that, I want to listen to Home, because I have not yet purchased this on the vinyl format.
I haven't either.
Do you like the song? Just
it's a good song. I mean, it's hard, I think, when this vinyl came out last year, I think. It was pretty recently. It's hard when you've spent so many years with an album and you've gotten used to the flow to hear something, especially he puts it right after Sunspots, or maybe it's right before Sunspots. So it's like right in the middle of the album.
I was going to ask, where is it? Okay.
Yeah. So I don't mind when people put like some extra tracks at the end or maybe on a different disc, but in the middle, it just kind of fucks with. I've been listening to the album for years.
I just bought Lonesome Crowded West on vinyl this weekend. They do the same thing.
Really?
They had Baby Blue Sedan, and then they something's out of order. I can't remember what it is, but there's something out of order too.
Damn it!
Dude, it's like the Star Wars special editions. People don't want to see your weird new aliens in there.
Well, yeah, I know, but I think their whole thing is You just have a real shitty side in terms of like time and how many tracks. Yeah, it'd basically be like Trucker's Atlas is one side. You know what I mean? Right. So I think I get why they do it, but if you've spent X amount of years with it one way, you're kind of like you're waiting for it to go into whatever it's supposed to go into.
So one thing on the release of this album, and I don't know if you guys read about this, and Grim, it would be, and Forrest, you too, it would be really interesting for you guys to look at this, because I know you guys have, recorded music and whatnot, but they released the multi-track files for this album.
Oh, this was the first one. I thought it was the next one they did that. Okay.
And I would just be curious, like for you guys to look at it and just, because certain things would make sense to you, just to see like how the session is laid out, how they tracked things, and just like seeing it from kind of like that perspective.
I would
be pretty interested.
Sure.
I mean, it's like, they did it this way. I wonder why. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Just because I always like seeing, whether it's like photo editing or video stuff, like other people's process, and this goes beyond just we use this mic to record this and we placed it here. This is more of the mixing and effects and all that kind of stuff.
Wonder what it's like in terms of the tracks themselves, because usually like the way I would put effects on a track is not actually overwrite the original file. You just kind of clip them on like you do them on a board. And so you still have your raw file, and just when you process it out, all that stuff is added, or when you listen to it. And I wonder if it's the same thing here.
That's a good question.
Like, are they giving you all the vocals like perfectly compressed, like, or just you know what I mean? I guess that's a question I would have, because you do that stuff not to the song as a whole also, but track by track, you're going to do a lot of that stuff too, to make them real consistent and,
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, and the other cool thing about that is it just opens it up for, fans and other artists to do remixes and whatnot.
Yeah, that is really cool.
I might like to tinker with that. We'll see. I don't know. I also don't want to, this album's a little sacrosanct to me, so maybe.
Definitely.
And I don't feel like, I don't know, not to butt in again, but I don't know about you, Forrest, but like, I don't know that I'm like one of those dudes who could do a sweet remix. That's just, I've never really tried to do one.
I mean, I would be interested in the challenge, but that's not, I've never done it before. Actually, this little tangent, I don't know if you are aware of this or not, but I mean, I think right after this, Trent put out Ghosts, that like collection of like, instrumentals and whatnot, and that was also released as a multi-track. And one of the biggest songs of last year, Old Town Road, Trent Reznor has a credit on that, because the artist used Ghost number, I forget which number, but they sampled it. So it all comes full circle.
I did remember hearing that, and I thought to myself, wow, What a weird time in music when an awesome artist gets credited for just
and it was
a
nominated
garbage
for
song.
It was nominated for like a CMA. He could have won a country music. He would have gotten He would have gotten a country music.
I think he did.
Did they win? I don't know if they won or not.
I'm not sure. I didn't follow it. I mean, I don't think it's a garbage song. I don't love it. It's a novelty song. It's one of those things that in like 30 years we'll look back and laugh at it. But I can appreciate
that's a fair way to look at it.
If you hear it on the radio all the time, it can definitely get old.
I think it's just tasteless dribble.
Yeah,
I've heard worse. I'll say that.
Okay, especially in country music.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because if he won a CMA, he's won an Oscar for composing the soundtrack to The Social Network. Has he won a Grammy for anything?
Yeah, I believe so. I think the missing element is the Tony. I don't see a Nine Inch Nails Broadway musical. I think he's nominated this year for Watchmen. So
fuck, dude.
Yeah, he's getting closer, dude. Pretty Hate Machine, live on Broadway. Dude, I'm ready.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Well, I think it's really cool that he's getting into all these other realms. Because the type of music that he makes, and hey, by all means, dude, keep touring and playing live and doing that stuff because I will see you on every tour. But I don't know if I can see, a 70-year-old Trent Reznor like going out and singing, Mr. Self-Destruct or something.
I would like to see
that.
Same thing about Mick Jagger, man.
Yeah, but it's a different style. I don't know.
Well, that is true. That is true. He has won 2 Grammys.
Oh, okay. All right. For what? Does it say? Just 2?
Yes. For 1992 for Best Metal Performance of Wish.
Oh, yeah.
And in 1995 for Best Metal Performance of something called Happiness in Slavery from the Woodstock 94 compilation.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Also, side note, there is a... is it Woodstock 94 or 99? Because did he play at both? 94. I know he played at 94 because that was like the famous, it's just
he's all covered in mud and
So I saw today that there's a Netflix video or a Netflix show coming out about Woodstock, but I can't remember if it's 94 or 99. So that really doesn't help us.
I thought 99 had more controversy, didn't it?
Yeah,
and it ended badly.
Oh,
it was like the Altamont of Woodstock.
It's got dude. Well, they compared it in the article to the Fire festivals. So
wow.
Yeah.
That was an interesting documentary, by the way.
I was like, yeah, it was really good. But I was like, yeah, but at least people who went there, like there was like actually shows and music. The Fire Festival, the dude just didn't.
It wasn't just like videos of Ja Rule with some dude you've never heard of.
Fucking Ja Rule. Oh my god. Oh man. Okay,
hey, man. Hey.
So we need to start moving this along a little bit. I mean, not that I'm on a time crunch or anything, but so this came out, and
you got to respect the listeners' schedules.
There were a lot of positive reviews, but there were also some critics who weren't like down with it, and
they weren't down in it.
Yeah. I was up above it.
They thought they were up above it. But.
Exactly.
Well, and I think maybe we'll get to it a little bit when we're going through the album, but just for me, it's different because I didn't follow them from Pretty Hate Machine to Downward Spiral to The Fragile to this. So there is a part of me that can see if you're seeing like sort of a progression, because when I look at The Fragile and I look at this album, to me, I actually feel like they're kind of polar opposites. Like I feel like The Fragile isn't even like you're going through some shit, like you're just in shit.
You're
like
down in it.
It is. You are down in it.
They could have just called the album Down in It.
And I feel like With Teeth is kind of like, what's that song on The Fragile? The Only Way Out is Through. And then like with Teeth could have been called like I Made It Through.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. So, but I feel like With Teeth, the album as a whole is more kind of, it's more reminiscing, right? It's more looking back on what was and what you came through, where The Fragile for me is like dude, shit is fucked up here, man. Like, like take a picture, it'll last longer, right?
Yeah. Though, man, I just like, what's there not to like when a band comes out with something that is still very stylistically them? I mean, you got to admit that.
Absolutely.
It's
yeah,
it's 100%. Not like they started playing freeform jazz. It's still very stylistic.
Which I would like to see, by the way.
A little jazz,
but it's new. It's fresh. It kicks ass. Like, I guess I just have a hard time seeing why someone would describe it as, quote, bland and tasteless.
They said that?
Well, yeah.
I mean, the main criticism I remember reading, there was this Rolling Stone in a review where they called out his lyrics specifically as like being like, oh, it sounds like you stole this from like a fan poem on from their diary or something. And it's like, this is a thing that I really appreciate about Nine Inch Nails is like, I feel like he goes to a very vulnerable place with his lyrics. Like it's raw and it's not pretty sometimes. And it's emotions that are difficult and they're not glamorous by any means. And the aggressiveness of the music is kind of the armor he builds around those feelings to like, protect himself, I think. And I can relate to that. I think we've all been through times like that where we can relate to some of these lyrics. So,
Oh yeah. Grim,
Well,
go ahead.
Yes, sir.
I was going to say, like, if our good friend, I know he's been a major influence on you. He's also a major influence on me. Our good friend, Noah Vanderhoff, if he was trying to get someone to listen to this record, he would probably say something to the effect of, come bust a move where the games are played. It's cool. It's fresh. It's Noah's Arcade.
Yeah.
That is how he would sell the album. And you know what? People would go. Go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was
that a far reach? I don't know, dude.
It was, but that was. You had to get the Wayne's World reference in there at some point. No, but in all seriousness, there was one critic from the Village Voice who described the album as all paint by numbers with no topography or relief. Just one angry, distorted chord after another. You didn't even listen to it, dickhead.
That's
dude,
nonsense.
I'm gonna paint by numbers on your face. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you alluded to this already, Grim, but like you press play on this album and you hear piano and it's like kind of downbeat.
Sick beat, dude.
Yeah. Oh. And it is not what I expected from a Nine Inch Nails album at that point in time. And I was immediately excited. I was like, where is this album going to take me? I buckle up. I'm in,
Now, there are points where it's like, you know what you are. It gets pretty intense. I still love it. But I mean, that gets pretty, I can understand where he can make the comment about it's angry and distorted in certain parts.
Sure.
But to say that there's no relief is grossly misinterpreting what's there.
No, I think the pacing on this album is spectacular.
Dude, to me, that's the one thing. And well, he said he wanted to make, an album and songs that, it was more song oriented, and he definitely did that. I mean, there's a couple songs where, they may go in certain areas, but dude, there's a lot of songs in a row, man. They just go and they move like this. To me, this album has a lot of energy. Like a lot of energy. Oh yeah. And that's what I can put, this is a great album to work out to, man. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. So
definitely.
I think with that, we jump into the tunes, man. Unless I'm missing something.
You want to jump, Grim?
Yeah. Now, one thing, as I'm looking down at the tracks, I also see the personnel listing. Did not know that James Brown was part of this album's production in the engineering in the 5.1 surround mix. Now, I'm not sure if it's that James Brown, but I want to believe that it is.
Hey, man,
I think we all know it is. Yeah.
That makes me...
I showed you guys this week on our YouTube channel, James Brown and Roger Waters both followed us. So James and Roger... this one's for you. Like,
yeah, hell yeah.
This bud's for you.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, I going into the songs via the James Brown 5.1 surround mix. So.
Number 1. All right. All the Love in the World.
Yeah.
Yes. Very interesting way to start the album, because it's a slower. Slower. It's got a cool little beat. Piano comes in. He's the way he's singing it. I can see some fans though being like, "Man, we haven't heard 9 Inch Nails for
kind of poppy
for like 6 years," and then he goes, it just. I'm sure it's just not what they expected. And especially being like, oh, he's sober now. I bet they're like, oh, fuck. Like, what happened?
Yeah, sure.
Right? I'm sure some people must have had that feeling.
I remember talking to some friends who felt that way, and I just couldn't relate. I was really excited about this track.
Yeah, hooked me from moment one.
I think the piano playing is great. Trent, I've read this, has been playing piano since he was 5 years old. So he's got some chops, and it's throughout this whole album, the piano plays a big role. But we're talking about that beat. Every time I hear this, like the way it like skitters around and there's like effects applied, like there's like a reverse snare and it sounds like some like bit crushing and like delay, like on individual beats, right? Like,
well, that's the thing. And I don't know. My gut would tell me it's on an original 909. And on those original machines, you could track out every drum.
Okay.
Each one had its own line out. And do you hear sometimes with the snare when he's like messing with the pitch of it, because there's pitch controls for most of the drums on there, and it kind of
cool.
Like
yeah.
Dude, like really playing with what the machine has to offer.
That's so cool. Yeah, I love, like I could probably listen to just a track of the drums on this. And like it'd be really
easily.
But another thing, if I can, one last thing. I'm a feature on this episode. I'm here. Yeah. No, I'm interested to hear what you guys think about this, because I've always thought, come back.
Come back. Yeah.
I'm interested to hear what you guys think about this, because I've always thought, like, we talked about the vulnerability and the aggressiveness, but I think there's another side to Trent's lyrics that comes out particularly on this album and in this particular song as well, is like kind of a sense of humor, like how he starts lines and won't finish them. Like, sometimes I feel so lonely I could, you know what I mean?
Why do you get it? Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. I've always liked that, because you know what the next word's gonna be.
Yep. Yeah,
and like your brain finishes the sentence while he started the next one.
It has more impact really cool. when you have to do that. But also it almost feels like he's preemptively addressing those critics who are like, "Oh, come on, this is too angsty" or whatever. It's like he's like, "I know."
Yeah,
dude. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I actually had that in my notes, because if he would have finished that, it would have been too obvious. It would have been too cliche, right?
Yeah. And timing would not have been right.
And the critics could have definitely panned him for that. But that's one of the things he wanted to be really cautious about when he was coming out with this album, because it was going to be very self-revealing and about everything he went through. He didn't want it to be I guess cliche, and he just didn't want it to be obvious and everything. Like, he just wanted it to be like his own thing. So I think he kind of did that to kind of like fuck with people a little bit too. And that is it is kind of funny, because you're like, we all notice it, and you almost, when you're singing along, you almost want to sing that word, but you don't. So
yeah.
At one point, I don't know if this was, I was reading a review, it could have been in some magazine, but there's a section towards the end of the song where he takes his voice into a range that he typically does not take his voice, and it gets very high. Yeah. And during this time, another musician named John Mayer was also very popular, or becoming popular. Someone either asked him, I think someone asked him, like, "Oh, did you get John Mayer to sing on this track with you?" Like, as like a serious question, and I think his response was, "Fuck no." So don't. Here's the thing. I just, dude, and this is like wait, this came out in 2005, so this is like 15 years ago. I could get that all completely wrong, but I did read something to that effect that somebody kind of almost made that suggestion, but in a weird way.
Even if it's wrong, it's a good story.
Yeah. It is a good story. But ever since I like
Nine Inch Nails featuring John Mayer.
John Mayer. Yeah. It's kind of like the Scratch a Jack podcast featuring Forrest Karbowski, basically. It's the same thing.
Did you know that
just
there
compared
is
you
a
to John
track in history that has Trent Reznor and an unlikely vocal pairing of Elton John on it? Did you know that?
Oh, really?
What the heck is that?
That would be on the Queens of the Stone Age record. What's the second to last one?
Like Clockwork?
Yes. I think it's Fair Weather Friends.
Oh, wow.
Mark it, dude. Elton John.
I didn't know
Trent
Elton John was on
Reznor
that.
Sing background on that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm going to listen to that again tonight with that in mind. That's cool.
Anyways.
Oh.
And I just want to put a little plug out there. I hope you guys are going to do some Queens of the Stone Age at some point as well.
Oh, dude,
Very
come
cool
on.
episode.
I could have.
I mean, no spoilers, but
honestly thinking about which album I want to pick.
hey, do it long enough, you can do them all, you know?
Well, that's the idea. I mean, I can tell you what one hit me first, but we'll continue on here. Yeah. So you know what you are.
Yeah.
What am I?
Well,
dude, you know. But dude, super aggressive. Dave Grohl's drumming,
dude, just right really, in
there. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say if fans listen to All in Love in the World and we're like, geez, I'm not really sure. Then this song comes on, dude. That must erase any doubts, right? Like,
yeah,
he has not gone soft. So. Excuse me, could you spread your legs? Because I'm gonna kick you in the balls. Like that's pretty much what he did here. But dude, it's an intense, and dude, this whole album, the fuzz, the guitars, the synths, the bass, like, dude, it's just such a good fuzz album.
Dude, a lot of square waves.
Yes.
Because that's what fuzz is made out of, is square waves. And I don't know if you know this. I think we were talking about it, Forrest. That square
I didn't know this
waves
until you told me.
Technically don't exist in nature, or they're not. They're man-made, basically.
Yeah.
Square waves.
I remember you told me this, and I immediately Googled it, and it came up with someone saying like, well, they technically do exist in nature because man exists in nature and man created them. And I was like, all right.
But outside of man, now, come on. If a forest falls in the tree, right? No one's there to hear it make a sound, and it still make a sound. Shit.
Yeah. I like that. If a forest falls in the tree, I'm going to use that one.
It was a mix-up between if they can't see the forest through the trees, and then if a tree falls in the forest. Yeah.
I like it.
There's some Pope shit in the woods. I mean,
He does.
Well, with this song, I at least, reading the lyrics, I really thought this was about trying to kind of like fix yourself in dealing with who you are as a person. I think one of the lines he says, you can dress that all up, you can try to pretend, but you can't change anything.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's kind of like, you are who you are, or, who you've become. So
alternate title, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
The alternate title.
In parents.
Yeah, it's just about taking a big, long look in the mirror, seeing where you've ended up.
On acid.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't do it that way.
Yeah, that's so I've heard.
We made it. It's fine. Song 3.
Actually, I have a question. I don't know, Graham or Dude, if either of you know about this, but like at the end, there's like for the final chorus, there's just this big wall of sound. It almost sounds like, and I know it's not horns, but it has this sort of brassy sound to it. Just this.
Oh yeah.
I've always loved that. I thought it's really cool. I mean, it's probably some sort of a synthesizer effect, but that's just something that strikes me about this track.
I like that you call it the wall of sound, because that's so synonymous with Motown and like these classic songs. And this is like the anti-wall of sound. It's pretty awesome.
And our previous podcast on Pet Sounds with Phil.
But it just fills it all up in a similar fashion.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah. But yeah, The Collector, right?
Oh, dude. So, Forrest, you and I have
picked things
talked
up
about this song many times. It's actually about the video game Katamari Damacy. Where you're the prince.
Which we were, yeah.
Dude, it has
Prince of the
to
Cosmos.
be. It's like, the Prince of the Cosmos. You walk around and you ball everything up.
I mean, this song would fit on that soundtrack for sure.
I think this song predates it. So I think what happened was the creators listened to this song and said, we're just going to base a video game around this song, which I think is genius, personally. I mean,
amazing. Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. But I'm sure you guys love the way this song starts, man, with that drum intro, dude. Is that
that's my first note?
Yeah, it's just I imagine that. I mean, it's fuzz, but I imagine it's just a bass, right? Isn't it just a
growling, man?
Released in Japan, March 2004. Sorry, dude. It was Katamari.
Well, and that's what I was saying is like we would have been playing Katamari and listening to this album at the same time.
Yeah,
I guarantee
at the same time.
All right, look up and see if Nine Inch Nails was touring
the soundtrack to Katamari was so good
that. Dude, it has to be about this song, though. I mean, there's no way.
And just
things start to accumulate and your ball gets bigger.
Yeah.
Pretty soon it's the whole goddamn earth.
The whole thing.
Every last one. Every last one.
Still isn't happy. The king of the cosmos.
So yeah, that's a deep cut, but I'm glad we went there.
But dude, you knew we were going to.
Of course. But I mean, on a serious note, this might be no spoilers. This might be my favorite song on the album.
I would have said the same thing.
It's in the top 3 for sure. It's I can definitely relate to the lyrics, which it's paints this picture of somebody who just can't let go of these feelings. Everything, they're just stuck feeling all these like everyone's judgments on them and all their own pain and everything. Just everything sticks to them.
One thing I've noticed as you start to get older, I hesitate to call myself an adult, but as you start to get older, is even if you take it out of like the whole like emotional part about it, dude, as you go on through your life, you just accumulate shit.
Yeah,
you do.
It's like a purge.
Yeah, man, and I've thought about it in that sense too, like in a much more simplified sense of, at some point you're cleaning up somewhere and you look around and you're like, how did I end up with all this shit?
Yeah, I think there's going into the next song, it gets pretty political, but I think especially around the time, there could be an element of sort of criticizing materialism. That's something that goes back to like Head Like a Hole. So I think that's something that Trent is definitely thinking about, and there could be sort of a double meaning to this song.
Well, I think also with The Collector though, it's for someone like him from his perspective. I mean, obviously we can identify it, but think about all the hangers on, right? All the people, and there's a lot of things that hold you back and really slow you down. And think about it though. I think we've all fallen into the materialistic, at times the materialistic lifestyle where you're like, I want this, I need this, I have to have this. And there are certain things that you just want and you want to hold on to them. I mean, Grim, you got a few, you got some keys behind you, bro. Like, and there's nothing, there's nothing wrong with that. I bought a $2,300 lens the other day, and
I was going to say, dude, you've got some t-shirts. I don't think I've seen you repeat one, and you guys have done almost 40 episodes.
I forget. I
was thinking about it too. I was like, man, I got to go to Goodwill and just like, get something right.
Shit ain't cheap.
Yeah, man.
Redbubble and Homage. Check them out. They're good.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah, so this is definitely one of my favorite songs on the album as well. And I actually feel like this is the first song where it kind of gets into that he just kind of wants to make kind of some rock songs or whatever. I feel like this is just a song that it's more, I don't know if I say traditional, but it's compared to the first two, this one just kind of has, it's just like it's a good straightforward rock song in my mind, and I really like it. So, and I think segueing into the next song, The Hand That Feeds, I feel the same way about that song as well. It's just a good straightforward rock song. I feel like this is to me, starting with The Collector, where the album really picks up its momentum. I mean, not that it doesn't with You Know What You Are, but I feel like it kind of gets on a path for the next few songs, starting with The Collector, but into The Hand That Feeds, which was the first single on the album.
Yeah. Great single.
Yeah.
This to me is like the most poppy one.
It is poppy, but what
It's
I love about that,
predictable where it would go.
what I love about that is, like, if you think about the time it was released, like right in the height of the Bush era and the Iraq War, it's criticizing all that, like, and it was rare for bands to really be political in that era, because Rage had kind of ended. You had, I think the biggest example was like Green Day, American Idiot. That was like the protest anthem of that era. But to me, this song was actually that anthem. And he even went even further with the next album, Year Zero. But that's
definitely, dude. Capital G.
Dude, yeah, he signs his name with it. Ooh, yeah. So it's interesting, and I know that 9/11 did factor into some of the songs in his writing, and I think you're 100% right in what you've said about this. But I actually also look at it from another angle from him, and it would be, there's a perception about him as a person, right, that people like, and that sells. And so you're this, you like on, the Fragile tour, he's wearing makeup, he's grungy, he's all this and everything. And then all of a sudden he gets sober and he's shaved his head, he's freaking ripped, right? And he's got a new album. So there's another part of me that's like, well, if he changes who he is, how he looks, people are going to have a different perception of him. So it's almost like, his image is like, that's the hand that, he could be biting. So that's kind of how I look at that.
I never thought of that, but I like that interpretation a lot. That's really interesting. And it definitely, to me, this was the one song that kind of stood out as not maybe fitting the same themes as the rest of the album, but that interpretation makes it totally line up. So that's cool.
Yeah, dude,
that's what I'm here for.
No, we're ready.
Absolutely.
We're ready to believe you.
So I don't, maybe you guys knew this or remember this, but he was supposed to perform this at the MTV Movie Awards that year. And he had to drop out because, or basically, he wanted to play it in front of a giant picture of George W. Bush. Not altered or anything, just a picture of George W. Bush. And MTV was like, I don't know, I don't think so. And he released a statement. He was like, apparently the image of our president is as offensive to MTV as it is to me. Which I think is a sick burn.
Wow, that is pretty nasty.
That's pretty badass.
They were afraid of like anything political, and he's like, "It's just a picture. What's the problem?"
I get it. I mean, think about what was that SNL where Sinead O'Connor ripped up a picture of the Pope performing "War" by Bob Marley.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not like the network. They probably just don't want to deal with all the they just want to. I'm not saying they're right and they shouldn't take a stand if they feel they should, but I'm, to some respects, I'm sure it's like, look, as much as we may not agree with them either, like we just want the fucking award show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would have been a cool statement though, I think.
I don't disagree with that at all.
The other thing about this song is, I love this music video. I don't know if you guys have seen it recently, but
I haven't.
It's so simple, and
I thought it was just them performing live, kind of, isn't it?
It's like in a rehearsal. It has a rehearsal feel to it. They're just like in their studio or in the basement or something. And it's like it's got all these digital artifacts like interlacing, and it looks like it was shot on like mini DV. The camera moves are all like keyframed, like in After Effects or something. It just feels really punk rock and raw. And I remember reading this thing where he was like, "Look, when you're in a band at our stage, you either do one of two things. You can get one of the same 3-4 people who do music videos at this level, and they're going to do the thing that they do for everybody, or we could just do it ourselves." And I think that's what they decided to do here. And it just has a cool energy. It matches the energy of the song. So
Yeah.
That's
well. Well, so on that note, with it was probably taken from the same studio sessions that this DVD. It has bonus like the special features on it. Actually has just them in kind of rehearsal studio space, and I don't know if the Hand That Feeds. I think it actually has the Hand That Feeds video on it, but Every Day is exactly the same. I think Love Is Not Enough, and maybe the Hand That Feeds is. There's a few videos of it, but I definitely know that Every Day is exactly the same is one of the videos.
Yeah.
Speaking of Love Is Not Enough,
we're not there.
And moving on to
okay. Yes,
we are there. And
we are
dude,
there.
I think
it's enough for me.
Dude, yeah, it always struck me because the bass has this really gritty,
nasty
fuzz to it, right?
Yeah.
And you think that's as nasty as it's gonna get. And then that guitar lick drops in that sounds like it's just coming apart.
Yeah.
Dude, it's
and
insane.
I wanted to put an example of it because I've done something like this on an analog tape machine where you just record it on analog tape and redline it the whole time. And you can get this sound of, because you're recording an already distorted sound and making it so distorted that it like breaks up to the point of being inaudible almost at times. And it that always struck me about this song, and I love it.
Yeah, I love that too. I have in my notes Bumblebee guitar. I was going to ask you if you had any ideas about how they got that sound.
Analog tape saturation, man. I'm quite sure of it.
That's cool.
Well, dude, the drum intro is pretty badass too, right?
There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
You know, it's just cool. So this is actually one of the songs that I thought could also be taken having to deal with a little bit about the United States and 9/11. Just when he says we cover ourselves with lies, but beneath we're not so tough. I mean, that could also, be a lot about him as well. But I really felt that just kind of resonated with me. With me.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I see what you did there. Yeah, I mean, I think that's an interesting interpretation, and just a straightforward interpretation of like, whatever you're struggling with, love isn't going to cure that problem, regardless of it's just not. It's love's great, but
guess he didn't see the bumper sticker that says "Love Wins."
Love wins. Yeah.
Love hurts. Love hurts.
Mm-hmm. What is love?
What is that?
Don't hurt me no more. So
all right. Back to
going in now, it takes like a little bit of a dip, right? And every day is exactly the same. Slows down a little bit. There's like that middle piano part, which I like. But I feel like this song was actually talking about the quarantine part of the pandemic before it even happened.
Dude.
Because that's how I felt for the last 6 months.
He's a prophet.
Every
He's basically
day
a prophet.
is exactly the same.
Don't say the words of that pandemic.
The name, the proper name.
Because then we can't monetize this shit. So,
which would obviously be a real problem at this point. So, I just thought that this song was like a prophecy.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely. I had the same thought, man. I've been playing the song a lot recently.
But I could see that if you're in recovery,
or
even talking about
like
addiction,
in rehab,
it's like same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing every day.
That's in some of the interviews I watched. That's one thing he says is he talks about that during I think it was the Fragile tour, he couldn't go out and perform without having drinks before the show. He just couldn't do it. And think about that. You're on tour every day. You go to the new city. You wake up. You have your routine. I repeat the same routine. You drink before the show. You go play the same songs. You get off the stage, you keep drinking, right? It's just like the same thing. And dude, I mean, who cannot relate to that, right? I mean, we all have our vices. We all have our things that we do over and over and over again. And even if they're not vices, I mean, we just got we all have our kind of lives and shit that we do. So,
yeah. No, I understand.
Yeah. And talking a little bit about just like the musicality of this song, the piano intro is cool. It's got like, I think the reverse cymbals coming in. And then like that bass, it almost sounds like '80s synthwave or like the synthwave revival, but this is way ahead of that. Yeah, I think it's a great song.
Yeah, I dig it, dude. One thing I noticed on this album, there's at least 3 songs I haven't noted in this one, dude. There's a lot of tambourine, man.
Oh yeah.
There is a lot of tambourine.
Tambourine plays a big
tambourine,
part,
man. Yeah, it's cool, but I dig it, and it's cool because on the studio version or the one that they perform on this DVD, it's just cool because like Trent is, he's just singing it and everybody else is playing. He just sings the song, but then he's the one like playing the tambourine. I don't know. It's just kind of cool. I'm like, awesome. Sweet, man. Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, but this was also the 3rd single from the album. And I think it's a good, it's a song for me, I would release it as a single because it moves. It has a great beat. I don't think I ever heard it on the radio, but
that's what I was going to say.
It is to me. I just feel like the Collector, Hand That Feeds, Love Is Not Enough, and Every Day Is Exactly the Same. I just feel like they are kind of what he wanted when he was, conceiving this album, and that's, putting together just kind of like rock songs, and I think they fit that, and I think they're really fucking good too.
Yeah.
So, moving on.
I think the next song too, with a Teetha,
dude, self-titled track, right?
I do enjoy the pronunciation.
Dude, the song
I think it's amazing.
Dude,
it's such a bold choice.
Sweet.
Like
it is.
Who would think to pronounce it that way? But it works. It's just kind of badass.
I know.
It's
iconic. Like you're not going to forget how to pronounce it.
The beat to this song is badass. What stands out to me, and he does this later in I forget what songs, but we'll get there. Dude, the guitar just sounds like a fucking drill. Like that, dude,
it does.
Sound is like,
that's a good way to describe it,
dude. It just sounds like a drill, and there's a part of me when I was looking at the lyrics, I'm not fully sure. I kind of think the song is about smack, and that's just what I say. She comes along, she gets inside, she makes you better than anything you tried, and then, dude, with teeth. I just the image I have is like something just biting you biting you and holding on, right? Like it's got you, and that's just what I have, and especially you guys have brought up the way he sings it. Oh, it's pretty great, man. It's pretty great.
I also like there's a lot of great transitions on this album, and from the previous song to this one, there's like this it almost sounds like mechanical hydraulics or something, and it continues throughout the song as well, and it just gives it the whole thing this like unnerving, like mechanical feel. It's cool.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I mean, just about 9 Inch Nails and him as a whole. I mean, I know people say it's the industrial thing, but so much he pulls this machine sounds that you feel like you are like in some sort of a factory sometimes. And it's really cool. And I don't know, maybe I just don't listen to enough like industrial music and stuff like that, but I like this a lot. So maybe I should listen to more. I don't know.
Skinny Puppy, dude. Skinny Puppy.
Okay.
Only.
Oh,
yeah.
Dude. This was the second single, I think.
Second single. Yes.
Yeah. I feel like this is I am definitely reminded of Closer for some reason.
Oh yeah, it's got that kind of funky groove to it.
Yeah, I don't
beat,
know
man,
what
it does.
It's a little faster, but there's something about it, and even to some degree, I mean, it's a little less like sexual, I suppose, but
it's no less.
It's kind of sexy,
offensive.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Well, I love, dude, the way that synth come in. It's so fucking thick, dude. Like it can't get any more thick. Like the screen that we're on right now is like this thick, and this song is like that thick. It is just. It sounds so good. I don't even know what to compare it to, but it's fucking awesome.
Well, it's just warm and
warm. fuzzy, warm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and David Fincher directed the music video, so that's kind of badass.
And
That's
I do
my
like
Fight Club
the
t-shirt.
way he sings this one too. Because sometimes it sounds like he's almost like thinking of something where he talks about sort of drifting into the abstract.
Yeah,
I see myself.
He kind of talk. Yeah, no, it's like this kind of.
It's a little
I would say
spoken
lazy.
word, or
It's very casual. It's kind of
Well,
casual the way.
I almost feel like he's playing a character or something. Like, I don't know. There's something very interesting going on with his delivery throughout this song, and then the production on his vocals as well. There's moments where like it'll like distort and then like pan to the left for like a line, and like it just kind of keeps you bouncing around, kind of like the song does, I think.
And it worked.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yes, it did.
Well, I feel like this song. Yeah, well, I feel like this song is about how he looks at himself as a person and how he's changing. He's at this point less concerned about fitting into the world, your world, that is, because it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter.
None of this, man.
I just made you up to hurt myself. It's like he's talking about his alternate ego. Like, I just made you up to get rid of who I really was, right? Like,
this is like Fight Club as a song.
And there's more tambourine, by the way.
Maybe that's why Finch did the video. Which I'm interested. What do you guys think about the video? Because I don't love this video, to be honest.
I think
I gotta watch it.
It's interesting. So this is 2005. Computer graphic technology was really coming along. Like, it was it was good, but it's okay. It's good. I mean, Grim, basically the video is. It's kind of like in an office desk, and there's one of those like needle kind of things that you can put your hand on or whatever.
Pin art or pin. It's called a pin screen.
Oh,
I think.
I've seen that one before. I've seen it.
And it turns into trends. So here's the thing. I think the video is really fucking cool. Do I think does it speak to me? Breathe? No. But I think it's really fucking cool.
I think it's really well executed. But there's two things. One, it kind of feels like an Apple commercial. Everything's white, and they've got like the screensaver with the visualization, which was, I think, an iTunes effect at that time. It's on a Mac, and everything's really sterile. But the other thing is, I had this foggy memory in my brain of like, I feel like somebody's done this before, and I did some Google searching, and there was actually the reason these pin screens became popular apparently. There was this music video by a Scottish band called Midge Ure in 1985, which did the exact same thing, but with a real pin screen, like, because they didn't have computer graphics back then. But
wow, that's cool.
And I have no idea where I saw this, like some weird like 2-year-old memory in my brain of like MTV or something. But yeah, watch it on YouTube. It's kind of trippy, but I songs like whatever.
Well,
but that's a little trivia there for you. The first music video,
that's cool.
The first music video with a pin screen, but not the last.
Woo hoo! I dig it.
The other weird thing about this song for me is I always see it on karaoke lists, and I'm like, first of all, Nine Inch Nails is a weird karaoke pick anyway, and I love karaoke, but I'm not gonna go with Nine Inch Nails. And if I was, I don't think I'd pick this song.
No.
Like, with that chorus, I just think you'd kind of shut the room down. I don't know.
Yeah. That would be a rough one.
And the crowd would just be getting smaller.
It would basically let them know what you thought about their performance, though.
It is. Well, Forrest, I like that transition. So let's get smaller. Yes, getting smaller. Well, so only fades into this song. And this is another one. For me, this is another one of those... I mean, it's different than Only, but it has a lot of energy. I feel like it's just kind of a straightforward rock song. And it's, to me, I feel like it's about kind of being trapped and almost like accepting, not giving in. Like, I'm not going to stand up real high. I'm happy to crawl. It's like, fuck it. I'm good.
Just
where I'm at.
In the crowd, dude.
Just a face, just one of the sheep, right? Yep.
Yeah, it feels like maybe the hardest rocking song on the album. Like, it's just straight ahead the whole time. And
I was gonna say it's right up there with "You Know What You Are." In my
it drives for sure. Yeah.
And like that bridge feels really like almost punk rock. Those guitars.
Yeah.
But I think it's sort of about like expectations versus reality. Like you were promised some great future, and then you look around and you're like, this is it,
Is
like,
this
really?
it?
Is this it? Yeah.
Coming soon to a podcast.
Ooh, spoilers. That's exciting.
No, probably not in this year,
okay.
but soon.
Soon.
Not this,
like
not
that.
this
Soon in
fiscal
the-
year.
Yeah.
Soon in the
Probably
cosmic
not
sense.
in Q3 of 2020. We'll see if we can get it in Q4. I don't know what the forecast is going to look like. Yeah.
It is definitely cloudy with a chance of fucking meatballs.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the line does begin to blur.
No, wait, no,
No,
dude.
not
It's
yet.
a little sunny out.
sunspots.
It's a little sunny. It's a little sunny.
Sunspots, yeah.
I think that's why you missed it, because you got sunspots in your eyes.
Dude,
yes.
I think so.
But it slows down for a second. Like, that's what's kind of cool. Like, sunspots definitely, like, you know, it starts with the bass and the drums a little bit, but
And they got that synth there. You know what I mean?
oh, dude. Okay, so I was gonna ask you, is that a synth or is that kind of that drill guitar again, man? Because
I think that's a synth, man.
Okay.
That's a real, in my opinion, the way it bends.
It does
I
bend,
don't think
you're
you can
right.
do as precise of a bend on a guitar.
Okay.
That feels like a pitch that like a
shift, yeah.
Like a modulation wheel.
on the synthesizer.
Okay. Well, dude, it's funny, man, because that always reminded me. Dude, what it sounds like is, I mean, it does sound like a drill, but what it really sounds is kind of like a mix master. So, like, if you were when you were young and your mom would make brownies or cake, she'd be like having the thing in the bowl, man. Dude, that's like exactly what it sounds like. It's pretty cool.
I never thought.
So
of
basically, it's like my mom in the kitchen. So thanks, Trent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Yeah. Yep. So you want to get blurry,
Yeah.
or do you got more to say about Spotty?
I don't.
No, I mean, apparently just a
I
tidbit.
mistakenly said modulation wheel, but it's probably the pitch wheel.
I mean, I think if you really
For all
want to
you
be technical, everything's a modulation, right?
For all you super
You're right.
fans,
You're
yeah.
just modulating the pitch, cousin.
Yeah.
But I just mean on the Moog specifically, they usually
Yeah,
have one
dude.
specifically related to pitch and the other.
Kind of like how all tequilas are actually mezcal. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
no,
Yeah, which is weird.
but not all mezcals
Mezcals are tequila, which is the way I would think it is, and I always thought of it that way. But I swear, last time I looked it up, that's what Google said. So,
Fucking
Sorry.
Venn diagrams.
Gotta be
bro,
true.
Circles.
all right. So
This,
blurry.
Yeah, the line begins to blur. Another song about self-perception changing.
I'm picking up on a theme here.
Yeah.
Got another really fuzzed out bass.
Oh, dude. Yes.
But then
And
you go ahead. Sorry.
you're on the tee, brother.
All right. What I think is
special
interesting
guest.
about this song is that the verses are really like fuzzed out and aggressive. Trent's voice is really far away, and then the choruses they get kind of like soft and smooth and beautiful and
There's piano.
melodic.
A little flowy. Yeah, it's a little flowy, man. Definitely.
It's a cool dynamic. I really like it.
Yeah, and that's what's cool, because when the line begins to blur, it's like sometimes you're all the way over here, and then sometimes you're all the way on this side. It's like
I do like how he sings
Walk
the
that line.
verses a lot too.
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, no, they're really good, really good.
They're not so much spoken word; they're much more like yelling.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, beside you in time.
Ooh, that's what I'm here for.
Now, Forrest, we got to talk about the intense sidechain compression that they're using between the
That's
kick
one of my
drum and the
notes.
synth.
Yep.
Dude, wow! I don't know that I've ever heard like a more intense sidechain compression where it's just
Yeah, it's like almost like lulls you into a trance. Like it's this drone that just like grows and grows and pulses. And yeah, I mean, that
That's how I
sound
described
is
it.
really singular.
Yeah,
So we got real nerd there, dude. But basically, what it is it's like this method of compression that kind of like pits one instrument against another, so that you're only really hearing the one when there's a lull in the other, which is very clear.
well, and that's one thing I had is as just like a novice. Is this that's what I love about this song is the pulse and the warping kind of sound it has to it, right?
Yes.
Like, dude, it's and the way it builds, right? Oh, it's so good.
Oh, and then
It's
it
just
breaks
so good.
into that end part is really awesome.
Yeah.
Because it just goes on and goes on.
And on.
And then
But I feel like for me, when I kind of looked at the lyrics and was thinking about it, it felt like it was like him moving on kind of from, this is the point. I don't know if you want to call it a concept album or whatever, and maybe there's a flow, maybe there isn't. But for me, this is about him maybe moving on from addiction. You know, now that I've decided not to stay, I can feel me start to fade away. Everything's back where it belongs. So it's like, hey, I was hanging out in this room getting fucked up for a while, but now I decided to kind of like go into this other chill room where I used to spend most of my time. And, that room was fun, but this one is more for like longevity. And I feel like that's kind of, what he's going for here, at least what he's kind of singing about. So that's my analogy. Yeah. And then
it's one of the, it's just the first time I think in this whole album where it starts to feel kind of uplifting. Like that especially that final, I guess it's the chorus maybe, or like, we will never die beside you in time, just repeating that. And it lifts you, out of like the pit that the rest of the emotions of the album have been in. So.
Yeah, I can hear that.
And it lifts you right where it belongs.
Oh.
I know this has got to be in both your notes, but I what I really like about it is how it comes in and you don't realize that it's not at the full level of clarity at first. It isn't until he says that one line.
The space of his vocals, man. It's so good.
Well, yeah, but you don't even realize that it's like filtered. And then like the level of clarity just like grows immensely.
It blossoms.
Yeah. Like 1,000-petal lotus.
So I have a little, I kind of went on a little tangent deep dive on this song.
Please.
Okay. So, I really feel like, first of all, I just love, the way the piano comes in. It's got the little pulsing fuzz and everything. But that space that he starts with his vocals, for me, I feel like this is the ultimate struggle. And again, we've talked about Bowie. It's about the performer on stage versus the person off stage and everything. And I feel like he really goes, this song represents and reflects like that whole kind of transition. And I feel like almost the way it starts, where his vocals are kind of at a distance and there's a filter on it, is kind of him almost off stage and everything. And then all of a sudden it changes right when he says, you keep looking, but you can't find the woods while you're hiding in the trees. And then you have the crowd come in, and that's almost like he's like, now he's transitioned into this other person. He's on stage and everybody's like screaming and cheering and everything. And I just feel like it's really cool that he used sort of a technical aspect to also kind of reflect that transition. Yeah. He's painting with numbers. Yes.
It's storytelling. It's storytelling through music production as well as, the lyrics, which is really cool, really sophisticated.
Yeah.
But it was really cool. So like a friend of mine, actually, we were talking the other day and she asked me some questions. She's like, and she gave me some response about like, oh, I feel like I have these like rose petaled glasses on. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? And she's like, oh, well, you take them off and all of a sudden you see things differently. And I feel like that's almost the transition you like see in this song. It's like, it's like, you got filters on and then there's this transition where boom, all of a sudden you're something else and things have changed. But I just think it's a beautiful song. I love it.
I do too.
Right there with you.
The piano at the end reminds me of the piano at the end of Closer too.
Yeah. Dude,
well, yeah.
What a great way to just end the album, right?
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Yeah, I think he repeats that piano motif at a few points throughout this album. Or like twists it in a certain way. I call it like the downward spiral motif because I feel like it figured really heavily into that album, but I think he kind of like sprinkles that in across his works. And yeah, again, just a great way to close this album as well. Just kind of like, but it just kind of comes apart gently, and then the album's over.
Definitely. Definitely.
And then you're left. Then you're left with a nail, probably about 9 or so inches long, in a vinyl record or CD.
Yeah.
Or CD.
And you got a scratch.
Oh boy.
And Forrest, you're our guest.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So please be our guest.
You have
and
the
scratch
honors.
first.
Well,
Put our magic to the test.
I gotta say, I came on this show mostly just to say, who do you think you are, and what gives you the right to scratch these classic albums? No, I mean, I think,
Bro, it's a game.
I know, and I love that about this, and that's, I think,
Despite what DMX says.
when you play this game, you know, I think you encounter a couple of different types of albums, but like, there's the type of album where it's like you really like it, you listen to it a lot. But there's one song that you just kind of never gelled with, so you kind of get rid of it. And then there's the other type of album where you just really feel like you are dancing with the devil in the pale moonlight. And that's
Great pull.
that's
Wow.
that's this kind of album for me, where I'm just like, you guys asked me to do this a couple weeks ago, and I've been really thinking about it, and I went back and forth many times. And the one that I eventually landed on was Sunspots. And
That was my B. I'll say that.
Ooh.
is that what you guessed?
Yeah. Well, no. When I said
his
that's
B.
my B, like if I tied with someone, that was my second.
I guess we know your overtime choices.
Oh,
now.
interesting. So yeah, I mean, I guess the reason I would scratch Sunspots is, I think where it comes in the album, you need that lull, but you would still get that from The Line Begins to Blur. So, you know, it's a hard call, man. I didn't want to make it, but you made me, and here we are. So, Sunspots.
All right.
It's the nail.
Yeah.
Grip.
It's like Antoine
You
got
go.
a little hot under the collar. Well, I did think about this a lot, and it became, there were like 3 of them.
Okay.
And I'm sure that I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but I am scratching the hand that feeds.
Oh, I'm not
Oh.
surprised. I'm not surprised. Not surprised.
Why'd you scratch it though?
Because to me, I get that it's a good song, but I don't know, the melody just kind of, I don't know. There's just a bit of it that I could live without it. And honestly, if like there's times that I've even skipped over it because I just want it to go into Love Is Not Enough.
All right.
Because I just want to hear that.
Well, I can't blame you for that. I would not scratch that one. Not.
I know that I would get a lot of flack for it.
That was not
waiting for the comments.
It was not my B. I'll tell you that much.
Nope. Wow, this is really interesting. We have 13 songs on this album, and we have 3 people on this podcast, and we are not going to overtime, guys. We are not going to overtime. That is pretty.
The Dolphins lose.
The Super Bowl. Oh,
So
Finkel.
wow, I did not expect this. I thought we were going to be here all night and just left with the collector, and that was it. Just the whole disc could be like,
And then you just collect all the songs back
Repeat.
up.
dude,
and
just roll them up
here you
again,
are.
turn them into a star.
So-
Dude, I want to whirl you up into my life.
So what'd you go for, dude?
I have a feeling that I might get my teeth bashed in for this one.
What?
Yep.
Beside you time. No.
So
You got to explain this. You got to explain yourself.
So here's the thing, and the reason I chose With Teeth, and let me tell you,
Yeah.
I've listened to this album over and over and over. I mean, hundreds of times, and this is a song one that I do skip. But when I listened to it this time, I was like, damn, it's really fucking good. But the reason I skip it, and I think I said earlier, this album to me has such energy, man. It just goes and goes and goes and goes. And there is that section in the middle of With Teeth that just drops. and it's quiet. I know there's a little, it's very distant piano playing, and I know this is a very personal and emotional song for him, and you can hear some of the lyrics he's saying in the background. But for me, it just kind of stops the album dead in its tracks. And it is a song that I will go from Every Day Is Exactly the Same right into Only. I found myself like skipping the next song. So that is why I went with this one. But when I listened to that beat again and like right in the beginning, it was hard, man.
Hard, dude.
Yeah.
It was hard.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say it was because you prefer the song With Teeth by the Melvins. But
Well, I mean, yes. Songs are the same name.
songs of the same name,
Coming to a podcast near you.
Throwing that one out there.
Let me update the sheet while we're on the line here.
Obviously, he doesn't read his text messages. So
I'm just full of good ideas, guys.
I didn't know that you updated the sheet. That's all.
I
man.
didn't. No. We were talking about this, texting about it like yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but I just want to update.
Oh, did you
the
know
sheet.
that, or did you just scroll past?
No. Oh, that's messed up. No, I did.
Just left us on red, dude. Left us on red.
Oh, bro. TLDR.
Well. Okay, so I have With Teeth. Grim, you had which one again? Every Day is
Hand-
or no.
Hand That Feeds.
Hand That Feeds.
Yeah.
Forrest, you had
Sunspots.
Sunspots, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's a nice little EP, right? We got ourselves right there. If you put
What's
those
that?
three together. I said it's a nice little EP if
Yeah.
you put those three together.
Yeah, it sure is. Could sit right next to Broken.
Yeah. Well,
we are
thank you
running
for having me on.
Yeah, we're running at almost an hour and a half here. So
Oh, boy.
I hope everybody watching is still with us. And our amazing guest who did a phenomenal job. I have no doubts he'll be back.
Yeah.
We'll have to.
There's some other pretty awesome albums that he's introduced us to that I would love to
There are
get into like a triangular bash about.
All right.
Crossfire.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, let's do it.
Conspiracy.
I'm game. I'm definitely game.
Yes. So I think Grim pretty much has the outro music queued up, so he's probably going to start playing that now. And
Yeah, we'll just probably play the whole song.
just the whole thing.
Groovy.
And on the way out, everyone, we got Karbowski.
It's me.
He's going to be linked down below. Check him out on SoundCloud. He's got some hot tracks. And he does perform some live DJ shows from time to time. So we will try to
it's modular
update
synths, my friend.
our Instagram, and we'll try to update our Twitter and Facebook stuff to promote that for you as well, because we know you're interested. So
Plugging in only the hottest shit.
the hottest shit. So
More to come.
more to come. Thank you all for listening. We cannot wait to see you again next week, because I'm sure we got an awesome album. So for me, for Grim, for Forrest, we're out. Peace.
Scratch you later.
Scratch a Track is produced by the Dude and Grim. Additional music provided by Karbowski. Copyright 2020. The Dude and Grim Show.
Thank you.